The next concept that we are going to talk about is school-based assessment. Now, what is the school-based assessment? Now, to understand this, let's look at what happens in a typical final exam, right? The question paper is set by somebody else. It is printed and sent to all the schools. The students take the exam. Then the answer sheets are also evaluated by some external examiners. So here we are talking about assessment by external exams. So the basic concept of this school-based assessment is that the entire assessment is happening at a school level instead of through external exams. Because the teachers and the school who have seen the student throughout the year, they are in a better position to assess the students, and they can do it in a more holistic way rather than these external exams. So this concept of school-based assessment was first proposed in Hong Kong in the year 2000. And it was rolled out in India in the form of the Continuous and Comprehensive Evaluation through the RTE Act 2009. So, in short, this school-based assessment is nothing but the Continuous and Comprehensive Evaluation that we are talking about so far. So, what does the NEP 2020 say about school-based assessment? Well, NEP 2020 essentially talks about 360-degree assessment through this school-based assessment process. That is, the assessment needs to be multi-layered and multiple sources. That is, you are using different types of assessment methods and you are getting information from various sources to achieve this 360-degree assessment. That is, assessment can be self-assessment by teachers, by peers, and by parents as well. And we are talking about assessment of various parameters such as cognitive abilities of the child, the psychomotor abilities of the child, and we are also looking at affective assessment. So what is this affective assessment? Well, affective assessment means how the learning or how the education is affecting the students' attitudes, interests, and values. Because the end result of the education must be positive, right? If it is not affecting the students' attitudes, interests, or values in a positive way, then the education might not be of much use. So 360-degree assessment is what the NEP 2020 advocates. And it says that we can track the progress of the inquiry-based learning through modes like quiz, role play, group work, portfolios, etc., which are integrated into the teaching and learning process. And it also talks about implementing artificial intelligence-based software to track the development of the child throughout the school years. On this page, you will see a list of items which are the advantages of school-based assessment. Now, these are important because you will often see questions asking you to identify which of the following is an advantage of school-based assessment. So let us quickly go through this list. Now, school-based assessment, because it is part of the teaching learning process, it is integrated into the teaching learning process. So assessment is not separate. It is integrated in the day-to-day learning that happens in the classroom. And school-based assessment is child-centered and it is activity-based because you are not just using a standardized test to assess the students or evaluate the students. You are using the day-to-day activities of the children that happens in the classroom, like classroom discussions or presentations or projects, to assess and evaluate the children. So it is child-centered and activity-based. And there is a focus on competency development rather than content memorization. If it was just about passing an exam, then they would just have to memorize something and write it in the exam and they would pass. But here, the focus is on making sure that the competencies are developed, their basics are developed, and they understand the concepts and not just remember it. And assessment becomes more meaningful by including self and peer assessment. That is, in a traditional assessment where you are using an exam, a standardized test, the assessment is being done only by the teacher. But in school-based assessment, there is self-assessment and there is also peer assessment along with the teacher assessment. And as we discussed previously, it is non-threatening, stress-free, and it enhances the participation and interaction of the students. Because here, students don't have the tension that I have to prepare for a final exam because the assessment is happening throughout the year and they are participating in the assessment process on an ongoing basis. And here, the assessment is focused on for learning and as learning, right? Because you are trying to improve the knowledge of the children through this assessment as well. And you are not just trying to test it, right? You are not just trying to test what they have learned or what they have understood. Right? So School-based assessment is focused on for learning and as learning and not off learning. Next, because there is less tension in the students and they are more involved in the assessment process, there is more faith and there is more interaction on the teacher and on the school system that they will not unnecessarily fail me. Right? And school-based assessment gives better results. Students are assessed in a better way. Therefore, it enhances the self-confidence of the children. And of course, school-based assessment will also reduce the load on the teachers, because in case of a final exam, you have to print the papers, you have to send it out, you have to collect the answer scripts, you have to evaluate it. So everything is happening in one shot, whereas school-based assessment is spread throughout the year. Therefore, it reduces the load on the teachers. So these are the advantages of school-based assessment.